Be wary of the Dutchman, wary of the mighty king. Be wary of their spells, beware of king and ghosts. Be wary of the Dutchman, wary of the mighty king, wary of these old geezers.
What's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Music Station, where we're searching for anything and everything animation, including a sponge that lives in a pineapple in the sea, as well as TV and movies. I'm your host, Chad Small. Welcome back to SpongeBob Month, Chapter 8, The End of the Dark Ages. Welcome to yet another episode review, as we get closer and closer to finishing Season 8. And let's start with free samples. A decent episode. Nothing revolutionary, nothing incredible, like Planet of the Jellyfish, but still, it's a decent episode and there's a bit to talk about. So, the plot of this episode is that Plankton tries to sell free samples of his chum. And after that fails, for obvious reasons, he then makes mock Krabby Patties using moldy buns and Band-Aids to try and sell his chum and pass them off as Krabby Patties. Which is pretty funny. No joke. That's one of his most clever plans. So this does start working, and Krabs starts losing customers because of the bad word of mouth, forcing SpongeBob to chain Mr. Krabs to giant tons of weight to sell free Krabby Patties to win them back. And that's the entire episode. There's not much filler. There's not much cutaways. It's just this very straightforward, simple plot. And if you know pre-movie SpongeBob, that is what sometimes made some of their best episodes. The plot being as simple as possible and them just playing around with it. And this one's kind of the same way in certain regards, where it's actually able to do a lot with so little. Not only because some of the jokes are actually really funny in this one, but also because, again, it's one of Plankton's better plots. Because he doesn't try to steal the Krabby Patty formula this time. Instead, he tries to ruin Krabs through bad word of mouth, through gossip. And that's actually a genuinely clever idea on his part, and it works pretty well for a grand majority of the episode. You know, until SpongeBob starts selling free Krabby Patties and wakes everyone up to the obvious. But outside of that, it's pretty decent. This episode's not that bad, and yeah, sure, it does still have a bit of modern SpongeBobism, with, SpongeBob still having his dumb moment every now and then. And yes, it does all have to reset to the status quo at the end, because, to quote Mr. Enter, the status quo is God. So, highlights for this episode, there's not many, but there are still two moments that are actually pretty funny. And the first one, I'm not even sure if it was intentional, or if it was just something caused by rushed production, but there's a scene where Plankton is handing out these mock Krabby Patties, these chum patties, and the animation shows him laughing, but there's no sound coming out. I don't know if that was done intentional or if it was just an accidental error, but I always found that really funny. And then, of course, highlight number 2, how can this not be highlight number 2? SpongeBob has to literally restrain Krabs with giant anvils to keep him from trying to prevent SpongeBob from doing the one thing that'll actually win customers back by selling Krabby Patties for free. Yes, it's not the first time that they've done this, because I'm pretty sure they did something like this in Season 7 of SpongeBob, if I remember correctly, but this is still a really funny way to do it. Not to mention he stays tied there for the entire episode, and it's pretty funny seeing his reactions to SpongeBob giving away free Krabby Patties. And the way that he keeps trying to escape these chains and giant weights, only to keep immediately face-planting. It's simple, but for some reason it just always makes me laugh. And that's pretty much a good way to describe this entire episode. It's simple, but it makes you laugh. And that's why its final verdict is a 6 out of 10. It's a decent episode. It's nothing revolutionary, but it's one of Plankton's better plots, and it has a lot of genuinely funny moments. So, yeah, give it a watch if you haven't. It's a pretty decent watch. Okay, now let's move on to Home Sweet Rubble. Here we have another interesting premise for a SpongeBob episode, and again, even if it's simple, they do a lot with it. So let's talk about it. So, in the episode Home Sweet Rubble, SpongeBob's pineapple is finally withering and deteriorating, causing his entire house on the inside to start collapsing in on itself. Then, after Patrick hilariously wraps Squidward around it to try to keep it from, falling any further forward, then they try to start renovating SpongeBob's house. And they, as in Sandy, Krabs, and Patrick. And they do come up with this hilarious, weird hodgepodge thing between a pirate ship and a very royal architectural building. I don't know why, I just always found that funny. Only for Squidward to finally unwrap himself and destroy the whole place. And obviously get very angry at SpongeBob for literally building over him, even though, to be fair, it wasn't SpongeBob's fault. That was just Krabs and Sandy. He should be blaming them, not SpongeBob, because SpongeBob literally had no input or say on that. But then that's when SpongeBob, in the wreckage of his pineapple, finds he has a can that automatically springs another pineapple. Yes, it is kind of a repeat of the lost pineapple from Home Sweet Pineapple from Season 2, but I think they do it in a way where it doesn't feel like a full-on recycled rehash, but it's also not afraid to obviously reference that episode. And then the episode kind of just ends after the new pineapple pops out of the can. So, yeah, it's another simple episode with a simple premise, but there's nothing horrendous or really bad here. I do wish that Krabs and Sandy allowed SpongeBob to actually have some say in what they were doing, rather than just giving him a weird hodgepodge house thing. But outside of that, it's a decent watch. Highlights for the episode, by far my favorite joke in the entire episode is right in the beginning, where Patrick dreams of being an executive. Or the president, I'm not entirely sure, but he has this dream of him like at this desk in a business suit, calling on the phone and writing something down. It's so random, it has nothing to do with the episode, but it is so funny. And it's even funnier considering the fact that executive treatment is one of the episodes in Season 9, so it's almost like they were setting up the idea, and then later fully went into the idea in another episode. Which, by the way, one of Patrick's best episodes is the executive treatment, and I can't wait to talk about it when we get to Season 9. Or Season 10, wherever the heck it is. I'll figure it out later. But yeah, that is by far the best joke in the episode, and it had me laughing. And then the other highlight, obviously, Squidward being the pineapple's infrastructure. Not only is it hilarious that Patrick comes up with the idea, of all people, to have Squidward wrapped around the sagging pineapple, but also the way that Squidward stays there the entire episode until he finally unwraps himself after being painted and built over. Like, very clever twist of the writers. But is there anything great here? Not really. Again, it is a little bit of plot recycling from Home Sweet Pineapple with the whole SpongeBob losing his house thing. But again, they do it in a way where it doesn't feel like a full-on rehash, so I'm not going to complain too much. And yeah, it does kind of go into a little bit of filler territory with SpongeBob then exploring all the new stuff in this weird hodgepodge pineapple thing. But also, to be fair, it lasts less than 2 to 3 minutes before Squidward destroys it all by unraveling himself. So, yeah, overall, it's a pretty decent episode. Nothing revolutionary, but nothing that bad either. It's a harmless watch, and it does have its fair share of fun moments. And that is why its final verdict is a 6 out of 10. Definitely give it a watch if you haven't already. I think it's a pretty entertaining, interesting episode. Well, that's it. That is all I've got for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this almost every single day. And of course, feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. And a bit of a weird new thing with YouTube, but feel free to hit the hype button if you so desire. I don't know why it's there. I think it's a weird, dumb feature, but Still, if you desire and you want to help spread this video for more to see, hit the hype button, and I'm pretty sure that's how it gets higher up in the algorithm. At least I think. I need to do research after I finish recording and editing and filming this review. But yeah, feel free to hit the hype button if you so desire, but I'm not going to force you to because, again, I think it's just a weird, dumb thing. But I don't know. Maybe it'll help, maybe it won't. Who knows? But what I do know is I will see you guys next time for 2 episodes that are not nearly as good as these 2. Nothing trash, but nothing really good either. I'll see you next time for the frustrating Karen 2.0 and the very, very bizarre mind screw that is in Spongiac. Yeah, I'm gonna have a lot to say about that one. But until then, thanks for watching. I'm Jack Small of Animation Station, and I'll see you in the next review. Stay spongy.
Beware of King.